NXT starts off with Fatal Influence. They kick it off the show, start off with them cutting a promo. JC Jane ends up mentioning the weekend, ends up mentioning the Great American Bash, ends up saying that they end up losing due to some members of the group couldn't hold their weight. She ends up blaming Fallon Henley and JC Jane for why they couldn't pick up the victory over Blake Monroe and Jordynne Grace. But she ends up moving on to Evolution, ends up saying that they redeemed themselves and helped her pick up the victory at Evolution against Jordynne Grace to retain the NXT Women's Championship. Then she ends up moving on to Masha Slamovich, ends up mentioning her title versus title match at Slammiversary, ends up saying that she's going to be holding two belts after Slammiversary. Then you get Masha Slamovich, she interrupts, and then it was a weird part of the segment where she ended up starting off her promo, she stops, and then she waits a bit, and then she tries to talk again, then stop, and then they end up switching microphones. I don't know what happened. I don't know if that was on purpose. I don't know if that was planned. It was very weird. Now I would say it was very weird. Fallon Henley played it off because she was the one that switched the microphones. Now I don't know if it was a part where I don't know if they couldn't hear her, but on the TV screen I was able to hear her. I was able to hear her perfectly fine. So I don't know if it was a problem with the microphones. I don't know, or that was planned, but it was very weird. I don't know what they was going for there, or it was just a mistake. Masha ends up saying that the only reason why JC Jane retained her title was due to Jordynne Grace, and that she ends up saying that Slammiversary that she's going to be the first TNA woman to hold the NXT championship. Then you end up getting Soruka and Zarya. They come out. Soruka ends up addressing the comment that JC Jane made about her being the first woman to hold two belts in NXT, and she alludes to her already holding two belts with the Women's North American Championship and the Women's Speed Championship. Very surprised they even mentioned the Speed Championship because they never mentioned the Speed Championship. Then she ends up saying that she puts her money on Masha to dethrone JC Jane. Zarya ends up backing up Soruka, and she ends up saying that they don't need to talk. That all they prove it in the ring. Jasmine Nix ends up saying that Zarya is jealous of the friendship that Fatal Influence has, and that whenever they have a problem, that they end up talking it out and they address it out loud. JCJ ends up responding, ends up saying that unlike Soruka and Zarya, theirs don't happen by accident. Then it leads into a brawl, which of course we know how this plays out, where the baby faces of course stand tall. This leads to the main event match. So we end up seeing that 6-woman tag match in the main event. Good way to start the show. I like what they did here. Now, my only critique. Now, I know why this match happened. I just didn't like the way it happened because I just don't understand why Soruk and Zarya had to be involved because they have no reason to really be involved here, especially because it started off with Soruk really complaining about the comment that JC Jane about having two titles. Like, I I get why this match happened. I just didn't like why it happened due to So and Zarya had no reason to really be a part of this whole segment, to be honest. But I understand why it happened. It was still a good way to start the show, but I just didn't like that So and Zarya to be here. I just feel like they could have came up with another way to do this. But I understand why they do it. They got to build up towards Slammiversary. They got to build towards this match, so it makes sense. Afterwards, we end up getting a 6-man tag match between Trick Williams, Joe Hendry, and Mike Santana versus Dark State. This match ended up becoming official at the Great American Bash when after the contract signing, Trick ended up going towards Ava. He was, of course, upset that he got put through the table, but Ava is not really, paying Trick no mind. Then she ends up making this match official, and she ends up alluding to him being the leader of Dark State. Now, they end up doing this thing where Trick Williams was like concerned about the match due to him, of course, they're trying to tease that he potentially is the leader of Dark State, which I haven't really addressed really because they haven't really been booking Dark State that much. But the match ends up happening. It ends up getting interrupted by, if I'm not mistaken, I'm already forgetting the name. I think they're called the System, if I'm not mistaken. They end up interrupting the match, causing a disqualification. Now, I was very confused on why this even happened, but what I was told, what I seen on Instagram and Twitter and stuff, is that Dark State was on TNA last week and they attacked Matt Cardona. That's what I was. That's why I seen. I don't know how true that is. I don't really care to look. That's why I seen on social media. So I'm assuming that the System have some type of relation with Matt Cardona. That's why they attacked Dark State. And then of course the System and then Joe Hendry and Mike Santana stand tall. I, I don't know really. I don't really know what to do with this information, to be honest with you. It's like I don't know if this really progressed anything, to be honest. I feel like we're in the same spot that we was in last week. I don't, because this really didn't elevate the Slammiversary match, and I don't know what this really does with Dark State because Dark State hasn't done anything since they attacked Tony D'Angelo. So I don't know what Shawn Michaels is really doing here. I don't know. I don't really have an opinion here. It's like I feel like nothing really progressed here. It's like I don't even know the reason why we even had this, to be honest. Because the thing about the Great American Bash, they teased Trick Williams being the leader. This didn't do anything to follow up on that. So I don't really know why this match even happened, to be honest. So I don't really understand what was the point of this. All right, now we was about to well, the match actually did happen. Now NXT ended up teasing Kaylee Armstrong, the Evolve Women's Champion, versus Carmen Petrovich, but this ends up becoming a disqualification very quickly due to Jordynne Grace being furious with Blake Monroe turning her back on her. So she ends up attacking both women. She calls out Blake Monroe. You end up getting Stevie Turner and then Mr. Stone. They end up coming out trying to calm her down. Then we get a little vignette of Blake Monroe, which I love her vignettes. Her vignettes are amazing. The vignette, she ends up basically saying that she feels like Jordynne Grace can't fill the shoes of being NXT Women's Champion, and that Jordynne Grace is not on her level, and that she's basically she outshines Jordynne Grace in every way, and that she ends up inviting Jordynne Grace front row seats to watch her in her NXT singles debut. I like this. I like this, man. Her vignettes are amazing. I love what they're doing with Blake Monroe. Then afterwards, you end up getting Stevie Turner and Mr. Stone ended up both getting attacked by Jordynne Grace. Jordynne Grace ends up showing this more ferocious and furious side of her. Now, I'm going to be honest. I did thought it was a bit much, but to be fair, I don't hate it completely because this does show a bit more personality from Jordynne Grace. Because I'm going to be honest, before this, Jordynne Grace was just a very basic, boring, bland, dominant babyface. That's basically what was her character. Was a character that just wants championship gold and that she's dominant. That was just her gimmick. Now this gives her a bit more character, a bit more personality. So I'm hoping they continue this. Very interested to see how this plays out. Very interested to see how the story can play out between Blake and Jordynne Grace. So very interested to see how this plays out. And I'm hyped for Blake Monroe having her singles debut. It's going to be against Ren Sinclair, which should be an easy victory. We end up getting a quick segment with Jasper Troy. Ava ends up calling him into her office instead of addressing what happened at the Great American Bash when he ended up interfering in the Ricky Saints versus Ethan Page match when Ricky Saints accidentally bumped into Jasper Troy and he ends up slamming him on the crates. She ends up basically giving him a match against Ricky Saints next week, so they will have a match to address that issue. Look. This is my last and final hope for Jasper Troy. Have him beat Ricky Saints. Like, bro, like Ricky Saints doesn't need this victory. Have him win. You need to have him win, bro. Like, please, just have him win. Ricky Saints doesn't need the victory. I am very adamant. Now, the main reason why I'm very adamant on Jasper Troy winning matches is mainly due to the men's division is just weak. It just is, especially due to what happened with this Oba Femby and Josh Briggs and the Morris segment, which I'm going to discuss later in a bit. But it's one of the main reasons why I'm very adamant on pushing Jasper Troy, because you need more bodies in this men's division, especially because Ethan Page and Ricky Saints doesn't even need to be on NXT, and I don't think they're going to be in NXT for that much longer. So you need guys that you can build around, because ever since losing Mello, Braun Breaker, and Ilya Dragunov, the NXT men's division has been in serious trouble, and they're severely lacking in talent, and it's very easy to tell that they're very much struggling with certain storylines. You can easily tell with Oba Femby's championship reign. So please tell me that Jasper Troy is going to win, but I have little to no faith. The match should be good, but I have little to no faith. I'm not even going to get my hopes up because I'm just going to assume Ricky Saints is going to win, like I was right about Javon Evans winning at the Great American Bash. So we'll see how this plays out, but I have little to no hope. This is my last dying hope with Jasper Troy. We end up getting the triple threat match between Tony D'Angelo, Luca Crucifino, and Channing Stacks. This is the final match of this whole family saga, of this family storyline. This was a good match. This was a good way to end this feud. Really enjoyed it. Really good match. Really solid match. Ends with Tony D'Angelo, of course, picking up the victory. As I expected, he was the one that got betrayed by everyone. He was the babyface. So it only makes sense for Tony D'Angelo to win. Don't know what they go from here, to be honest with you, because I don't see either of them branching out as single stars with the current NXT booking. I think Channing Stacks could be a singles guy, but with the current NXT booking, I'm just not that confident. And Tony D'Angelo has kind of done everything NXT. The only thing he hasn't done is the NXT Championship. So I would actually like him to be in the NXT title picture, to be honest. It's better than what they're doing so far. And he actually has some credibility. So that'll be very interesting. And he beat Oba Femby before, so you can have him do that. Channing Stacks, you can easily put him in the North American title picture if you want to. Luca Crucifino, Not really sure, but if you want to keep pushing him, I can see the vision. But yeah, I don't know where they go from here. Interested to see what they do, but I don't have much hope due to the current booking of the men's division. But we'll see where this goes. We end up getting Josh Briggs. He ends up cutting a promo. He ends up saying that he tried everything in his power to have Inamura pick up the victory, but Inamura wasn't willing to do what it takes to pick up the victory. He ends up saying that, look, this is a cutthroat business and you got to do whatever it takes to pick up victories. And he ends up saying that if it was him in that position, he would have been able to beat Obafemi. Then he ends up mentioning that Inamura ended up getting a title shot without being there a long time in NXT while he's been there for 4 years and he hasn't even got a shot at the NXT title. Then you end up getting Obafemi. He comes out mentioning that, the interference in the match, and ends up saying that Josh Briggs ruined the match, that people are doubting what would have happened if he didn't interfere, and that people were questioning the title reign of Obafemi. Then Josh Briggs ends up saying that Obafemi knows that Inamura had him beat and that he was so close to losing that NXT championship, and he knows his time is running out. Then Inamura comes out, and then Obafemi ends up saying that Inamura is going to get another championship opportunity. He deserves another championship opportunity, but Josh Briggs doesn't. Josh Briggs responds, ends up saying that the only reason why he thinks Inamura deserves another championship opportunity is because he knows Inamura is not going to do what it takes to dethrone him. And then you end up getting Inamura interrupts and ends up saying that, look, he's going to do things on his terms. He want to do things the right way. Then you end up getting a brawl. Josh Briggs and Inamura, Josh Briggs and Oba are going back and forth. Inamura is trying to stop it. They kind of do like the Io Sky thing where the person is kind of being ignored, but they accidentally attack the person. They end up doing like the Io Sky, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley thing. Then you end up getting a confrontation between Inamura and Josh Briggs because Josh Briggs realized he ended up hitting Inamura, but Inamura ends up pushing him away. I see what they're doing here. It's going to be a triple threat match, which also I need to criticize because in this promo, Obafemi literally said that Josh Briggs didn't deserve a title shot, but he gives him a title shot after it was Josh Briggs' idea to make it a triple threat, which made no sense. I don't understand it, but it's going to be a triple threat match. Obafemi, of course, is going to retain. Hopefully, they have it to where Inamura and Josh Briggs feud because, like I said, this men's division it's not good. This is why I've been saying push Jasper Troy because you need new guys in this main event and you need new people in this men's division. But with the current NXT booking, I don't know what they're doing. But the match should be good. But Obafemi should retain. Hopefully they drift away from this storyline, but I don't think so. Then we get the main event: Fatal Influence versus Soruka, Zarya, and Masha Slamovich. This was a really good match. Really enjoyed this match. The babyfaces, of course, picked up the victory. You end up getting interferences from the calling, which end up dragging Soruka and Zarya out of the match for like the last 30 seconds. And then Masha Slamovich ends up basically taking out all of Fatal Influence. I think Jasmine Nix was the only person that wasn't there. She takes out Fallon Henley and then JC Jane. She ends up pinning JC Jane, and then she ends up holding both the TNA Knockout Women's Championship and the NXT Women's Championship, and then she gives it back to JC Jane. Overall, this show was really good. Really enjoyed the show. Very interested to see what happens at Slammiversary. I'm hoping JCJ picks up the victory. But they're telling the story of, Masha being the first woman to hold the TNA Knockout Women's Championship and the NXT Championship. So very interested how this plays out. Overall, good show. But you guys let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. But yeah, that's it.